Facebook is now called Meta. The Metaverse is a big thing, but we don't know if Wendy's is really called meat, and I wear yellow sweatshirts. So this is what this video is about. The Metaverse, the question why Microsoft, Facebook and other companies spend a big amount of time and money in this new hot shit.
Today, we're going to talk about the Metaverse.
For the next internet.
Neue virtuelle Umgebung, Metaverse.
Meta, as in when I joined Facebook, I met a lot of crazy people.
The hot word in tech these days seems to be Metaverse.
We are creating an entirely new platform layer, which is the Metaverse.
If you don't know me yet, my name is Christoph. I run a company that is dedicated to everything around collaboration, communication, but this channel here is about my personal interests in technology and communication and all the stuff we can do with that. So subscribe to this channel because it's gonna be fun, and we will explore now what the Metaverse is, why it's actually a thing, and why you should keep an eye on it, and why it's not only about changing the name and then doing something with a company because people think it's just to distract from everything else. So let's jump into that. First, what is the Metaverse? The idea from the Metaverse is quite old. It's from the early 90s, from Neil Stephenson, a science fiction author, from a novel called Snow Crash. And he described the Metaverse as kind of the emerged space where you have virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality coming together with all the different technologies you have. So quite a fancy idea. Mark Zuckerberg very early on shared this idea as a vision because he's a tech geek. But also other companies share this vision because they kind of want to bring the next frontier to the internet.
I really do think that, if you were starting something today, I think the Metaverse is the next frontier in social connection, kind of like social networking was when I got started in 2004.
I look at the continuum of things from email to simple audio calls, to video meetings, to these new immersive meetings and co-presence and design sessions or what have you, to physical meeting. All will give us, to your earlier question, more optionality and more flexibility.
Technologies that are around stuff like augmented reality, where you have your camera picture on the screen, mixed reality, where you have glasses and you can actually see stuff that is moving, and virtual reality, as we know from the movie Ready Player One, originally also from a novel, where the Oasis is kind of this metaverse thing where people dive into, but the Metaverse is more than that. And why is it important to have an eye on that? It's not just because Facebook is now called Meta and that's a big thing, but companies like Facebook and also Microsoft spend a lot of money, and I think, Yannick, correct me in numbers here if I'm wrong, it's around 5 billion a year Facebook is investing in that technology. I don't know the exact numbers from Microsoft, but they are also quite high. Important side note, Microsoft announced that they will use Mesh, which is a VR, AR app, they integrate it into Teams. So they will bring this experience into Teams chats and calls.
Great things happen when we commit to something bigger than ourselves.
Let's take a closer look at it.
Place this here. Let's see how we go from there, okay?
This sense of collaboration and the feelings of connection it brings excites us.
Hey, just in time. I'm gonna move it slightly, okay?
It's yours, take it.
We have 2 planes right now on the same trajectory.
As we put people first, technology fades into the background and feels like anything but.
Aisha, what do you think?
I think we had 3:30.
So what you can do then is you have VR glasses and you actually join a meeting as an avatar, for example. Sounds kind of weird. Maybe I'm too old for that, but that's an idea. And there is a presentation from Satya Nadella, which is quite interesting to look at, about that whole idea, because Accenture, partnering with Microsoft, they bought 60,000 VR glasses for their staff. And what they do is they kind of test how it feels like to be in a meeting as an avatar, working together in a room and work together and have not a camera on you all day long when you collaborate virtually or in a hybrid environment, which is kind of the normal workday we have. Right now we are in our second Hamburg space, the House of New Work. It's a physical workspace. And we know from our own experience how important it is to come together and actually interact with people. And this new idea of the metaverse brings in the two layers of the technology side, having a screen, all the options we have in the virtual world, with kind of this feeling of being in a real space. It's this immersive experience that VR actually offers. It's very hard to explain if you don't experience it for yourself. So this is what they kind of aim for. And if you look at the presentation from Microsoft and an interview that Satya Nadella did with Harvard Business Review, you know how important space is for them, especially physical space. And they experiment with different tools, how they can bring people together over the distance.
Physical space is probably what, since the industrial era, we have discovered as the best productivity tool. There's no substitute. For 200 plus years, we have tuned of the workplace, whether it's a manufacturing line, whether it's a retail outlet, or whether it is knowledge workers coming into an office campus. We have tuned space to drive productivity by bringing people together, having a common sense of purpose, mission, connection, and what have you. I wouldn't trade that off. But can we use space such that it maps to the expectations of of our employees and the task at hand? So for example, we are redesigning some of our campus spaces. We will still have our campus. We love our campus, except the way managers and teams will use our campus will change. They may have, okay, we want to bring everyone together for a design session. Or we want to bring everybody for a crunch time mode in building, say, some software product. We want to have orientation. We have a whole bunch of new employees. And when we do that, I think we're going to use space as even a more malleable resource using some of the digital technologies we have. So I think a combination of space and this remote digital fabric that we have established through the pandemic will come together to give us the tools for flexibility.
They don't have the solution yet, but I can appreciate that they are experimenting. And I was bashing on Microsoft for a long time, but we are partners with Microsoft, and we really appreciate what they are doing at the moment. So this is the whole part there. What Facebook does, on the other hand, is they also bring up their kind of own metaverse. Both companies kind of want to make it open and stuff like shareable, and Mark Zuckerberg is much more this kind of gaming geek guy playing. All the meta products are like Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, stuff that you do on a personal level. But since Facebook also owns a company called Oculus Rift, which is now integrated, you know that they have the hardware to make that possible, and kind of have a different way to bring people into this new experience. So this is coming more from the personal level, and the other side from the professional level. So this is what this idea of the metaverse is all about. The question now is this really something that could be a next thing, or is this just some hype? Is this a thing? And I have to admit, at Blackboard everyone is already rolling eyes because I'm coming up with metaverse, NFTs, blockchain in the last weeks more than usually. And my feeling at the moment is there is a new opportunity coming up. And this is kind of like the iPhone presentation in 2007 when Steve Jobs said, there's one more thing. And you can then say, well, come on, this is too much, and I don't know. But back then, we had the same reaction. And people were saying like, I don't know, are the iPhones really a thing? Or same with Facebook itself, when we did a campaign in 2008 for Facebook in Germany, that was before the feed within Facebook. So back then you had a page, and Mark Zuckerberg did a presentation and actually was sharing what his idea was. People were reacting like, this is overestimated, we don't know. And you could see the numbers that this is interesting. And this is my take on it. There is this curve that we usually kind of think in a linear way what's coming next, and we shared that quite often already. And you have this exponential curve of technology. And when this exponential curve hits the linear curve, this is the magic moment or the oh shit moment, depending on which curve you're on. Because before this exponential line hits the linear curve, there is this area below it, and we usually call it the German curve because it's a very German reaction to say, we don't need that stuff, I don't know, it's overestimated. But you need to build the different layers, and this is kind of the important thing to keep in mind. Once you build on layer by layer, the growth comes exponentially. It's like with interest rates, in the end, growing exponentially depending on how large the amount is. And these companies have enough money to do that. They're quite innovative. They come from the two different sides. As I said, Microsoft from the work experience. We know that Teams is growing as hell, especially from the Corona times. And Facebook, even if people say, yeah, the product Facebook itself is not interesting anymore, but they have Instagram, they have WhatsApp, they have the technology behind it. So we should keep an eye on that because we don't know if it's going to take off. How can we find out and what can you do with it? Which will be part 3. So what can you do with it and what can you not do with it? As I said, we ordered we have VR headsets, but not the newest ones, so we ordered new ones to test it. So you will definitely see a test with the apps that are there, because there's not the Metaverse. There is apps that work as an immersive experience, but there is not a place where you go in the Metaverse. But what you can do right now is you can come together in virtual rooms and collaborate in a room, which is still very avatar-based and something you really have to see if it works.
Here we are, Jason, and your avatar looks awesome. Something that I really like is how freely you can move around and have face-to-face conversations.
That's exactly right. We've held more than 100 team gatherings in these immersive spaces where people can connect, learn, and collaborate because they're truly in the same place together.
We know it from the project how hard it is to take people along in the new world. Even if with simple stuff like Microsoft Teams, it's like really hard to bring people along if they are not super into it and say like, yeah, that's the newest thing. They kind of stick to what they know. So this is really hard to change, but the ideas that you can do with it is that you have your kind of home space, log into that, and also use a headset. We ordered once without cable, the Quest 2, that you can like put on and then like move freely, that you can also do like sports with it. So you have a trainer in the virtual world and you see them actually standing there, which is a much more immersive experience if there is someone and you interact with them.
What do you see the game, the use case, the maybe work use case being for like my parents wearing VR goggles every day, you know? Because it's like, I'm a techie, I love it, but I think of them as like, okay, they're in their 50s and they're tech savvy. What do you see? Do you see that adoption happening with a specific app, or do you see it more with the advancement of the hardware?
Yeah, so what we're seeing right now is that with each iteration of the hardware, and then every 6 months or so, there's a new software experience that comes out. You're just adding use cases. So earlier on, it was primarily about gamers, right? People who just really cared about gaming, and that I think remains one of the best use cases. Now I think we're seeing, I just mentioned fitness. Well, one of the things that we're seeing is, people kind of use it like their Peloton, except instead of Peloton being, a bike or a treadmill, you have your $300 Quest 2 and you put it on, and in it you can take boxing classes or do cardio in Supernatural, and people love it. It's just that use case is growing really quickly, and it's a different set of people than maybe the ones who are doing gaming. But what you're kind of seeing over time is you're just adding use case after use case.
The limitations yet are that you need kind of big devices, you need cables. It's not possible with every screen. You cannot use, like, you would think these are VR, AR glasses, but they are not, obviously. So you kind of not have the immersive experience like to carry around. And this is what makes smartphones so strong, because they're just like a thing you won't leave at home anymore. And Zuckerberg believes that in kind of like between 5 to 10 years, people kind of replace their normal work setup. So as Sarah Dietschy did a very interesting interview with Mark Zuckerberg, she was like, can I set up 8 screens for editing? And he says this will be possible. So imagine you just sit here and you have your screens in VR and then like work on them. I don't believe that you will ever replace the physical workspace like here, but you add on another layer. It's the same with the old days when people were thinking you have the paperless office. Yes, but for certain moments, paper is actually a good thing to work on. So you kind of not replace it, but you add another layer to it. And this is the point where also the whole research topic comes in, because Facebook is also putting research into how would you type on a virtual keyboard, which is totally different. How do you get feedback? Can you like type by just thinking or moving your fingers or stuff like that? So this is an interesting question, which I cannot say anything about it now. Why am I excited, and what should you keep in mind when it comes to privacy and all that stuff? Well, these companies make a lot of money with these business models. Facebook is earning a hell lot of money with advertisement. So this is how they make money, and they don't make a big secret out of that. So this is definitely the thing you should keep in mind, which you give up. Microsoft has different business models behind it. Like when Accenture uses their tools, they are actually the layer to make collaboration possible, tool-wise, where we then help people to make it actually work or to bring it to life. But we always should keep in mind that there is not this open metaverse idea. They're building their apps, Facebook's building their apps, and you kind of have to work with them to find out where it's going. But still, maybe all the different technologies like NFTs or blockchain, where you then can have your own avatar and you take it from like one app and bring it to another app and have privacy options built in. Maybe at a certain point we have something like a metaverse experience over the different platforms, and you can like take your stuff with you, which is kind of hard these days, because if I'm on iOS, I'm even logged onto here with WhatsApp. Yannick and I made a video about that. I remember that when I wanted to change from Android to iOS in like minutes, and the only thing that we couldn't change was WhatsApp, because on iOS I do the backup in iCloud, and on an Android phone into the Google Cloud, and they won't let you do both. I mean, come on, and then you need an extra app. So these are my concerns, but I don't know. I hope you can feel my excitement about it, even if I'm wrong, but I think in this case something is going to happen. I still think the smartphone industry, as I said in one of the last videos, is still not at the point where it can be in the future, but something else is coming up here where we add another layer to what we have already. This is my take on the metaverse.
Mark Zuckerberg and his future vision for the Metaverse.
The Metaverse.
The tech industry battle is taking shape over the Metaverse.
Let's talk about the Metaverse. This is the Metaverse. You like meta, but I wonder how are you modeling the Metaverse?